Right, for those just joining, just literally getting set up, watching the fleets come in. So I'm a bit delayed. I was caught up having a smoke and a chat with the neighbours. So yeah.
Hey, Sally.
Hello. You right, Caleb?
Uh, what's happening? Who's dying? Is someone actually showing up, or is it just going to be another club fest?
Well, in theory, I should be able to do this, as you should be able to see real time. So I'm streaming it to Discord and to Twitch, hopefully. So, guys,
Nice.
welcome. You're about to see the Y-2ANO Keepstar attack. Um, so it's me, Sully, and I'm joined here at the moment with Caleb. We may have some more pop in later. At the moment, we just have large groups of Titans forming, as well as it appears the Jackdaw fleet from Pandemic Horde has just signed in as well. And I can already say that some of these Titan fits from seeing some modules activated, they're expecting trouble. These are dual fit Titans, so there's shield modules going on the Erebus and on the Avatars.
Yeah, there was some shenanigans earlier. Someone talked about some supers undocking from the Keepstar.
Yeah, so I've been in system for the last few hours, just kind of keeping an eye on things, and there was a Goon Swarm Union fleet protecting the gate into Delve. I was a bit curious as to if they're bringing things in, but it seemed like they was taking dreadnoughts out of the Keepstar. I didn't see any supers specifically, but wasn't paying 100%. But I did see about half a dozen dreads leave the Keepstar. So what we're seeing at the
So,
moment is just a large form up of Titans with a Jackdaw fleet support at the moment. There is also a fleet off to the side that is an Eagle fleet from Pandemic Horde as well. We'll get some D-scan and stuff once things have settled into the attack, because things are coming in, so I know it's still going off. So, but after the initial Titans came in, there was around 600 in local, so probably between 600 and 650 supers and Titans on grid at the moment. And this will be
so
interesting.
you don't have a recent D-scan of
I
what's
don't at the
exactly
moment.
on.
I was just gonna let things settle out. We're just about to hit 900. Once we hit 900, in fact, I'll do a quick D-scan now. See what we can see. So currently we have 180 Titans and 81 super carriers. So there's 261 supers and Titans. We have 161 heavy assault cruisers and 158 tactical destroyers. But so we're still seeing supers and Titans jump in. We still have 6 minutes until the timer, so those numbers may change. But this will be an interesting one because Y-2 is technically the only defended Keepstar. KVN being the node crash is a bit of a weird one. This one they definitely did want to defend it. As we see there, on comes a load more capitals belonging to NC. So Shah, that's another. There's only Pandemic Horde on grid at the time. There wasn't any NC and there wasn't any PL, so we're seeing here the NC Super and Titan fleet jump in, as well as that one avatar who is now travelling very far away. So I estimate around 600 caps total, because we still have Pandemic Legion to come in. I don't believe Fire are bringing any capitals to this, but we've still got, relatively speaking, they weren't in system as much as they were for the other Keepstars.
So when you said that they were expecting trouble, what kind of trouble would be possible in
So
this scenario?
we know that there was a dreadnought fleet that went into G-M or G Magic as it's referred to in Legacy's terms, um, yesterday, I believe it was, and there was Titans brought on grid, so there was a rather large brawl there. I think to the tune of about 300 billion destroyed. So we know they're willing to use dreadnoughts. So I think a lot of these Titans are dual fit. So the avatars, which are primarily armor tanked, also have shield hardeners running. Same for the Erebus's.
I am trying to find the battle report from that little slugfest.
Yeah, so that avatar is just about slow down enough so he's turning around, but he's a little ways away from the rest of the group. But in in Eve of old, that would have been a very big cause for concern because they would have been able to bubble that Titan and do a dread bomb. I don't think that's going to happen to this avatar in this situation. But let's do a quick descan here and see what we're up to. Whilst even more supers and Titans are jumping in. Currently up to 289 Titans and 134 super carriers. So if my math is correct, that is 325 with more still inbound. And here some more Titans are leaving the safety of Tether because of other Titans jumping in and bumping them out.
Just a crazy thought. In a situation like this, bringing this much on field, which is, of course, if it's not defended, a little bit overkill. If they are allowed to like kill this without anything, do you think they would actually go for the gate?
I don't think this fleet will go for the gate today. I'm not sure if there'll be anything on the other side. I pretty much would assume there'll be a dread bomb in Delve waiting because the moment they take this gate, then Delve is on the menu. And for Titans and Supers, they cannot jump that gate. They have to take the Stargate. So I don't think it will be a particular travel from this system. This is more of clearing up this Keepstar, making sure there are no Keepstars in hostile hands in Fountain.
Yeah, it's the last of the
Yeah.
cleanups, and then well, they're gonna prep for the breach, right?
Yeah, there is low sec systems in range of Delve, and as we know, the entire attack in front did move their Super and Titan fleet into a low sec Keepstar, currently owned by the Pandemic Horde. So I'd imagine the next stage of the attack will be moving into a low sec system in range of more systems, then traveling into a null sec area in range of Delve with another Keepstar support. So I think this will be more of a cleanup. Then over the coming weeks, we'll begin to see more of an assault on the homeland, so to speak, rather than just this force here. So, also have some more things jumping in. Local up to 1200. We will do another D-scan, see what we're up to. I'll place this one for chat for people. So we're currently up to 312 Titans and 150 Super KOs. So that's 462 Supers and Titans. So we just had some more jump in. So the interesting thing that I see is there's only 9 force auxiliary ships here. So this really has done a shift in the way that cap warfare used to be, with the more local, more remote reps going to a target, the less effective they are. Because previously in these fleets, we would have seen 30, 40, 50 force auxiliaries, whereas in this situation, we just do not see that numbers. So we're seeing NC first to enter the field. We have a flight Goonswarm flycatcher up there. He must be intending on something. We can see here all the avatars of their hardeners running. So the Keepstar is now out of reinforce and it is being attacked. You can see the lasers from the avatars going, the railguns from the Erebus. I'd assume the Ragnaroks as well will be firing shortly, and the Leviathan's missiles probably won't be best shown because of differences in graphic settings. You can see there's the large ball of Titans and the seemingly never-ending line of them coming in. Local is just about to hit 1500. Let's do a local scan, see how many we have on each side as well. There is currently only 38 Goonswarm in system. So all these Titans, as they'll be coming into land, they will be trying to spread out to prevent as much bumping as possible. There is a slight invulnerability from bumping when you warp in, but this many Titans, they will need to spread out over a larger grid, just so that it makes it easier for if one of them does end up getting tackled, that it's not a major concern. We see that bright blue ball that occurred. That's the phenomenon for the Leviathan, I believe it will be, because the Leviathan and the Erebus are the only two that are really useful in these combats. Leviathan boosting shield and Erebus boosting armor. That's all the real effects they give. There is a kinetic and explosive resistance reduction, but the amount of shield gained and armor gained really does have a major impact.
So from the look of it, we're going to be done in like 15 minutes.
So we'll have the minimum timer on these Keepstars, which I believe is 35 minutes for the hull. If because you obviously can only do so much damage, and I guarantee that all of these Titans, even the first 10 or 20 that were here, would have probably been hitting the cap to prevent it reappearing. The next 10 or 20 would have been able to stop it and getting deflections. I think with this many here, they're well and truly past the deflection rate. It's more of a these are each going to be defending. So with there being, let me do a D-scan to get an accurate Titan count. So with an accurate Titan count of 315, the brilliant thing with a Titan is each one of their single target doomsdays, if you assume 2 Titans per dreadnought to kill it outright, which is generally safe, 1 Titan can kill it. However, it all depends on resists, the Titan that's shooting the dreadnought and things like that. But if you assume out of these 315 Titans, they would need to bring at least 150 dreadnoughts to survive the initial Doomsday wave, let alone any guns that would go on. So they're more show of strength, as well as you can't dread bomb this with 10 to 20 dreads because there is so many Titans here, they'll just Doomsday those dreads off the field before they can do any real damage. As well as with the staggered position as well, you can't dread bomb the middle group and hit all of them. You'd have to pick a group, and then the other two groups will have free fire on you. We also see the super carriers in amongst the Titans. They will likely have fighter bombers in their loadout ready to go on any dreadnoughts that happen to come into the midst. So it'll be about 25-30 minutes. I'd recommend probably say from now to when this Keepstar is dead. Hey Waldeck, thanks for bringing over a raid. You guys are going to come and see the last Keepstar belonging to Goonswarm in Fountain be destroyed at this current rate with this many Titans. So you're just seeing a mix of the Amarian laser show that's going on. Yeah, let's get you guys an accurate and up-to-date D-scan because I still hear the occasional jump in of ships in the distance. So there is currently 322 Titans and 153 super carriers on field, which is 475 super carrier and Titans, which is a staggering amount.
And zero tie-dye.
And there is indeed zero tie-dye, much different to the node crash of KVN, where local was only about 600-700 more than this, I believe, maybe slightly more than that, but yes. So Dajas Tao says there's a lot of risk between. There is, if you assume each one of these titans is around about 75 to 80 billion, because that's their average price. There's 322 of them. That's just under 26 trillion ISK in Titans alone, assuming 80 billion value. Obviously, you may get some people who have fancier mods than their Titans, such as officers or the Abyssal rolled stats, the lows and things like that. You never really can get true values anymore with Titans and fits, but yes, there is a staggering amount of ISK on field just to kill one Keepstar. Crash, I'm not really sure how many Titans Goons had when they attacked the North. Caleb, you might have some idea of
It's
memory?
yeah, it's something between anything from 900 to 1200, depending on who you ask.
Yeah, so I think on average, I think they may have probably had 100, 150 ready to go at any time because naturally people say they have more, but that's total numbers rather than available numbers. For example, Test Alliance's available numbers are less than their total just because of time zones, people's work schedules, things like that. Who are we seeing here in Titans? So we have Pandemic Horde, Fraternity, NC. There's some PL, but not many.
You might want to comment on that. Why is Goons then not forming any Titans on something like this? Because again, everyone keeps asking that, and it's the same answer every
So
single time.
the main problem with this system is to get a Titan into this system from, well, I can speak from being in Razor. It was 7 Titan jumps for me to get from my home in Innsmother to Fat, where we was previously staging. It was then a further 8 jumps to move from Fat to an area close by. For me to jump from where I currently am with my Titan to here is still 3 jumps. From Delve, they can't make that gate jump. The gate here is the equivalent of, I believe, 25 to 30 AU. Sorry, 30 light years. So it's not possible to jump them through. They have to gate them through the Stargate, of which, like Victor said, is extremely dangerous. We did see a Titan die just last week. It was autopiloting, which is a very odd thing to do in Titan, but it's unfortunately you can't take this gate easily. The interesting thing will come in once the assault starts happening on Delve, because then everything will be in range of everything else. So if these Titans are here in say 2 weeks when we're attacking a Keepstar in Delve, then Goonswarm would realistically be able to respond with Supers and Titans as well. So we're seeing local jump up here, and we're seeing the first evidence of tie-dye come in. Locals just hit 1700, and tie-dye is now at 56%. So far, I'm not seeing any red on my screen. However, I'm just seeing blue, so I'm only seeing attackers.
And just while we're like waiting for the fireworks, theoretically, how would you actually go about breaching a gate if you had to? Would you send something in before the actual Titans, or how would that actually work in practical terms?
So if say Test Lance wanted to roll these fleets through that Stargate, what would need to happen would be uh, probably all the subcapital defense fleet that's in this system would need to take the gate first. They would need to secure the gate area, not to the point of nothing could be on grid, but you don't want anything that comes on grid all in one go. You'd also then need a safe place on the other side for the Titans, so all your Titans would be aligned to a place. They'd then warp them all at once. We're just about to breach 2000 local. Yeah, it's a lot harder to gate these than people do understand, because obviously with standard ships you can take the gates very easily. With these, although it is possible, it's generally a thing that's never done. Moving them from an aerospace to another is only really done by Sinos rather than any Stargates, just because of that risk of any third party can catch you on that gate. Yeah, Tao, I've never known any Titan pilot who has purposely autopiloted anywhere. I have, with my Titan, I have taken Stargates at the risk of the Titan, but I take that into consideration. But I've never autopilot. It's it's something that's never really done. Supers I've done it with. I've autopiloted a super before, but that was in safe space. But Titans, nah. So locals just about to pop 2000. 1985. Tie-dye has since collapsed, since there's no longer fleets jumping in. I believe it was a hack fleet that was coming in because the hack numbers have gone up. So Tal says, so is it true that most of the band bots were goons? I'm not really sure. I don't keep up too much with the um, I'm going to refer to it as this side because I know both sides have been doing the spin of the CCP policing that's been going on, and the security updates because both sides are claiming it's the other side. So I just generally avoid that because it's hard to get a true source. The only true source is CCP, and they don't ever release those numbers.
No, someone has been trying to pull the stats on that, and of course, I don't know exactly who the source is, but the numbers I saw was I think it was about 5% of the shares of bot fans, which is actually remarkably low compared to some of the other ones. I'll find the sheet if you give me a sec.
So there is a fraternity avatar. So Rowan has pointed out a fraternity avatar has warped to 0 on the Keepstar, which is a very dangerous thing because even though the avatar is not alone, this Keepstar is more than capable of killing said avatar. The Doomsday, the lack of support that it can have. There may be fighter bombs loaded on this Keepstar, which it may be willing to commit to this, but yeah, the fraternity avatar that warped to the Keepstar is a very dangerous point. So we keep an eye on him, see if he gets out okay. I bet there'll be many dictators coming up from Goon Swarm to trying to keep this avatar bubbled here. We can see a dictator there, preventing him from warp. As well as the Keepstar itself will have its own warp disruption that does stop a Titan. Currently the avatar doesn't look to sustain any armor damage as we speak, so I have to see how it gets on. But it looks like it's just warped out because my camera's reset. We go back down. Yeah, there he goes. Very dangerous thing for that avatar pilot. I'm pretty sure he'll be slightly puckered after that. But then we also now have a test license Y-2ANO that's just off of it. But I'm pretty sure he'll get out before the Keepstar can really get any lock on him.
I send you the link to the screenshot.
How old's that screenshot? Because I see Solar Citizens on there.
It's about a year old.
I don't think Solar Citizens were around for a while now.
Well, just from the type of data that I've collected myself and that my significant other has done is like doing these things takes so much time. So I don't know if anyone has actually gone and done it recently. But
Yeah.
now might actually be a good time.
So yeah, the truths of bands, the only true source I ever consider those is CCP, because with that they are the one and true. They know all the numbers. What they release is up to them, but I personally wouldn't account it because we do see some groups having people who come out and say, "Oh, this person actually was banned for botting, and this much got taken out of the alliance and corp wallets." But if we turn on brackets here, we should be able to see. So there is a fighter ball going on the Keepstar, which is unexpected. I didn't expect to see many fighters on here. We do just see Keepstar is now trying to kill this wyvern. So here's a note with the um, Citadel is it can't point indefinitely. The warp disruptor on the Keepstar only lasts a certain amount of time before it runs out. My memory's failing me if it's 30 or 60 seconds. So realistically speaking, these Ships only have to survive that amount of time before they can get out, as you saw with the Avatar. Once the bubbles were clear, it was able to warp out because the Keepstar was not able to keep permanent point. But we're seeing local just creeping up to 21. Tie-dye is at 84% standard time, so no real consideration there. And we are just seeing the laser show that is from the beam lasers of the avatars, with a large amount of them using, I believe that is, oh, fails me, gamma, I believe is the red one for the lasers, for beams, and a couple of using standard with, which is the yellow lasers.
Oh, and I'm actually being told that that actual graph is a CCP one, so I think that's worth mentioning.
Oh. So the other interesting thing is, well, the interesting to note on the graph, if it is from CCP source, it's historical as well. So there may be alliances on there that haven't actually been around for a while. I do see one of them, which I remember years ago. I was cloaky camping myself when they lived in Tribute. So yeah, it could be interesting to know the time frame of it, but it just says historical bands.
Yeah, I would not advise CCP to give us an updated one right now.
Yeah, it's all interesting when it comes to bands and bots because I know personally I've been reported for botting many times. However, I've never botted, never have, never will. But I just like making character names that start with that such character A1. For example, Station Camera 01, Station Camera 02. I have a large majority of accounts like that. So when they see 20 characters with all the same name, just a number increment, I get reported for botting, even though I'm just a regular player.
I can imagine it's the same for people that actually do zombie farming.
Yeah, I think my industrialists are named Blueprint Researcher 1, I think. They're on accounts I've not used for a while, and I think I have 40 of those. I have 60 of them from that have clone in their name. So Crazy says, according to that graph, Russians, PL, and then C Vent Alliance are the biggest botters. I would, yeah, from the graph it does show that. The interesting part is obviously it does show that the venting alliances are more impacted than the non-venting alliances. So we see Fraternity Treasury, Shadow of X-Death, Solar Citizens, um, Northern Associates, and Initiative Associates. So we do see the Rent Alliance there, which is understandable because Rent Alliances generally you pay your bill, then no one really cares what you do in your system.
Exactly. So it's to be expected. So it's really a culture thing. How do you police your own space, and renters don't police it that well.
We have a look at this. So this is just the big Titan ball that we see. So all these Titans are moving very slowly. They're not at full speed. They're just pointed in the right direction so that once the Keepstar is dead, they're able to full speed and line out. So Karazi says, will they ever cross the regional gate? I don't think they will take that Stargate specifically, but I do believe that the attacking force will at some point cross over into Delve via a jump. So there will be, or at least I predict there will be this many Titans in Delve on the assault. At the very least, I hope there will be, because it'll be a good fun fight to be in. I'm not sure how I'll stream that, because I'll also be in it with my Titan, but we'll see when that time comes. I may just end up streaming my Titan. So here we're going to beginning to see tie-dye go up, as the sub-capital fleets are now going to want to join onto the grid to get damage onto this Keepstar. That's to ensure they're on the kill mail for this Keepstar, which is the last Keepstar in Fountain.
Do Pappy actually hold space at the moment with proper jump range from Delve, or are they still only holding space with gates?
So currently, Pappy is holding space with gates. There is the large Super and Titan fleet that moved from FAT recently is currently in Losec in a Pandemic Horde Keepstar. That Keepstar is, I believe it's, we have one more Keepstar to put down or jump to. I'm not sure if it's down or not, or where it will go. But then from there, we will be able to reach into, I believe we'll be able to reach into Delve with the Titan. So
So what low seg is that specifically that they have range?
I'm not 100% on what system it is, slash, I know which one it will be, but I obviously can't really say, given that I don't know where they're going to put it down, so I don't want to put more spin on anything either. So Judah said Goons had better asset safety their Titans, don't want to risk losing them in a fight. It's a very interesting thing with the asset safety, because Goons at the moment are putting out that they aren't going to be evacing or using asset safety. They're just going to move into NPC delve. Now, Titans obviously need Keepstars to dock. They don't need Keepstars to survive. They can more than comfortably tether on any structure. As well as you do still have pauses in systems before Keepstars even and Citadels even came around. So it's a very interesting point whether they do asset safety them, they do evac to some point, or whether these Titans are just going to be left floating in space. That is where the next upcoming parts of the war will go on. And another point that someone mentioned earlier about if Goons had that amount of Titans, why don't they just take this fight? I believe it was said by the Talking Stations channel, typing in chat, that there are also characters in there who are inactive, who haven't played the game for a long amount of time, or who have real life commitments. That means they are unable to get on game at the moment. So whether or not they get escorted out will be hard to say, because we are constantly, even in Smother, we had a super carrier log in our space last week that he hadn't logged in 9 months. So he logged into our space being conquered by a new entity. So he weren't he was neutral to all of us. So we ended up killing his Nyx with dreadnoughts. But he just logged into the game after a long amount of time. So Parv F1 says, who in Pappy will jump their Titans in first? PGL was great in B after being late, jumping out of range and the enemy leaving first.
So are we saying that the Pickles should jump first through the actual gate on the breach?
I hope that DBRB jumps first, because I remember last time he jumped his Titan in. So we're just seeing the Keepstar there, getting the last DD off it ever will. It will not survive long enough for it to recharge, so it rightly targeted I believe it would have targeted a monitor because that seems to be their target of choice recently. But I'm sure we'll see a kill mail of that pop up at some point. So we're
It would
seeing,
be rather historical if we saw PGL actually jump through the gate first before the rest of the breach. That would be historical.
yeah, I believe Vili was the first Titan to jump into the FAT Keepstar. I don't think there was any specific Titan parade going into the current LoSec staging, but I imagine the first Keepstar that goes down in Delve for the attacking force, I think there will be a ceremonial this guy jumps first kind of thing.
So are people just tapping it right now just to be on the kill mail and then buggering off?
Yeah, so we'll get characters literally, they'll show up, they'll get one volley off on the Keepstar, and then it will they'll be moving out of range or getting out of range of PDS or just generally trying to stay alive. So Tao asks, how long is it for the Keepstar Super Oven? I believe it is 10 or 5 minutes. I can't remember which one. Um, I know skills do affect it, but generally I believe it's the same as the Titans. So Dutch says, what's the next focus after this for Legacy? I'm not 100% sure. Not in any FC talks or anything like that. I am just a line member. But with what I see and what I would plan is I think the next stage will be trying to get in to a null-sec system in closer range of Delve. So I personally think Quirius will be a next focus point. That will allow the Supers and Titans to jump from low-sec back into a safe null-sec space owned by Legacy and Pappy, just so that they can then be that one step closer to form-ups. But it all depends on where the performance goes. It may end up being that through FAT, where the the subcapitals are still staging, there could well be a breakthrough in there, and we end up taking over that solving that system, so we're able to get signer jammers up and things like that. So, so here we're seeing some of the Titans are actually leaving grid early, and the Keepstar's destruction has just gone. So we'll see now. The Titans continue to warp off whilst the explosion goes on. There's a Bumbu who says, most boring gameplay video that can happen. Fortunately, it is that kind of thing. I was hoping that would be more of a defense. We know they have defended this Keepstar before, so even some fleets to try and disrupt the Super and Titan fleets would have been more fun. I'm always for dropping dreads onto Titans, um, just to have fun rather than efficiency. But
It would have been a bloodbath, right? And
it would have been, but
really, really difficult to reach anything remotely ISK efficient. And definitely it would be just bringing fun to the game. So it would be a bad choice.
yeah. So that's unfortunately why I don't FC anything, because I would be like, ah, I've got 50 dreadnoughts. Right, let's go in and die. It'd be fun, but wouldn't be very efficient, and there's only so many times you can do that before people start to moan at you.
And there we go. That was the last of the trash in Fountain.
Yeah, so there goes the last Goon Swarm Keepstar in Fountain. So now there is no Keepstars belonging to the Imperium forces or the Initiative forces in Fountain. There are still Fortizars and Athenors, and I think there's a few Astra houses as well, but the last major defensive point has now gone.
It would be fun if they Leroy through the gate now.
Yeah. I do believe as well, since we last streamed, that the updated number of Keepstars in Delve has gone up. I believe Initiative angered 2 Keepstars in Delve, so there is now 64 Keepstars in Delve.
Yeah, since all the destruction started, they've actually, I believe they've launched 8 new Keepstars. Is the last tally.
Yeah.
So I think it's almost 2 for each one that was destroyed.
So Gareth says there's a big fight last night. Look forward to talking stations when it comes on. Yeah, that will be. I believe that we talked about in the standard talk show, which will be. I believe it's at 1200 Eve, midnight Eve, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that sounds about
new
right.
times. So Bunboo says old TCU bashing were much more fun than this. I do miss the old sort of that you want about there, Bunboo. Um, I personally preferred that than the current form of SOV because you had to show up with force to take an iHub or a TCU, whereas here you can do it with a lone ship in an I believe it was a lone noob ship.
Yeah, the whole Aegis Sov design is a little bit weird because on paper, before it was actually launched, it looked quite different. It's very much like structures, really. If someone goes back and reads about how it was actually supposed to work and how it ended up working, uh, quite big differences. And the same goes for structures. There was that early presentation of how structures were supposed to work and what different types there were supposed to be. I think the article was, or the dev blog was called Back in Structure. And yeah, let's just say that we're not even halfway through the actual promised features.
Yeah, it's do you so Tal says, do you think goons not defending this Keepstar is a sign they're truly feeling the isgloss of the war? Um,
Yeah, that's why they're launching 2 Keepstars in Dell for everyone they've just lost.
yeah,
No, I don't
it's.
think this has anything to do with money.
I don't think it, like Caleb said, it's nothing to do really with money. It's more they need a realistic point of defending this Keepstar. As we saw previously, they defended Y-2, and the assault was not able to reinforce it into the armor. Um, that was a big defense, but then the attackers just came and reinforced it again. So I think they want to commit more to objectives they can fight at all time, which will be obviously the Keepstars in Delve. With Delve being such a small region on the map, there really isn't going to be many times that you can't be in range of everything. So I think that's where goons have been reserving themselves and keeping their stocks up and making sure they have enough so that in dread bombs you can take your dreadnought in, die, go back to your station where you were podded, and then go back into the fight with another dreadnought. So here we're just seeing a couple of Titan bridges going out, but these Titans now jumping out to their safe Y-2ANO spot somewhere else in Eve. They'll dock up, rearm, refuel, and prepare for the next battle where they'll be called in. Which, at this moment in time, I don't know if they're planning on being involved in any of these Satio fights that are going on, but these next Titans will probably be waiting for their next chance to shine on the next Keepstar.
Well, strategically, it's a good idea to launch more Keepstars because grinding through these is really boring, especially when there's a lot of them. We've basically seen right now how much just a delay of what happened with the KVN node and with the oops in Y-2 the last round. It just delays everything up to 5 days or even a whole week because you kind of need to almost start over. This is why the nice progress that Pappy had on advancing towards Dell kind of got delayed, right?
Yeah, so if you assume, so these Keepstars take this amount of force, and we've almost been assuming an hour now. So if you assume it's an hour of time for each reinforced cycles, that's 3 hours of the attacking force's time, as well as spread over a week, and just the resource to deal with it, making it so that you have to organize these fleets. For each Titan fleet, you really need a support fleet that goes along with it. So you're beginning to look at 250 pilots for each alliance just in support. It soon tallies up to a large effort just for one of them. So whereas they've anchored more and more, it does mean that attacking it is going to be that much harder, especially in 1DQ where I believe there is 6 Keepstars. So each one of those Keepstars will either be attacked individually or all at once, and either way, it's still going to be a massive assault and defense on those.
Yeah, you got 60 to 70 keep stars in Dell, right? So it's massive home field advantage. Regardless of where you're attacking, you might actually get some sort of defense, right? Some they might actually just leave you to have it, but when they actually punch back, it's just going to be these endless back and forth things and losing assets, right? Because you might have brought those 1,000 Titans or something, but you're also going to start losing some of them on the other side, and well, it's pretty much use them or lose them for goons, right? So they're gonna pretty much empty a lot of their war chests to actually defend themselves. So it's gonna be costly.
Yeah. At the end of this war, either two things will happen in which the test alliance will have to recall and then be on the defensive for a long period of time because of large fleet losses, or the Imperium and Gintuan will have to relocate from Delve. Either side will have suffered heavy losses at that stage. It won't. I don't think this war will be ending via just talks around a table. I think this war is so large now that it's beyond the talks around the table stage, just from the amount of people that are involved. So Jojo put, I think it's interesting that the Imperium only showed up for 2 out of the 18 Keepstar timers. So I know personally from chatting with some Imperium members, they were showed up as defense more as a being a nuisance rather than a full-on defense. I believe Y-2 was the only full-on defense one. KVN at the state that it was going would have fallen. The Keepstar would have eventually died. But obviously the node crash did swing it in the defender's favour just due to the nature of getting everyone online, the timer having ticked down and needed to be paused again. So
And the whole argument of the fact that these quantum cores that are being introduced are going to slow down the structure spam. Yeah, but only to half, right? It only really adds, let's say, double the commitment to each structure you want to launch. That's not a problem when you've seen the level of structure spam that we've had. So it's going to be a very, very inefficient and very small speed bump for the nullsec entities.
the so I think the cores are going to have a bigger part to play for structure spam. Most recently, we've seen Athenors dropped in Tesla space and Raitaru things like that. It so speaking of a Raitaru, it's 390 million to build that structure. The core is 800 million, so it triples your investment cost to spam those structures. Not only that, is it allows the people who want to kill them and thus not have them in their space an extra window because the player has to physically put the core in It will constantly be sat at hull until that core is installed. So it adds that next stage onto it where a lot of structure spam, you may only have one or two structures that they try and put a core in, but all the rest will not. It won't be a race against the clock to kill these 60 structures before they finish their repair cycle. Is they will be stuck indefinitely in that state until someone puts a core in.
Well, I honestly don't think this is going to be causing any problems for that kind of structure spam. It disincentivizes the aggressive stuff like the 69, 69, 69 crap and all that potty throwing around Asperhuses everywhere. That's going to go away, of course. But when it comes to this strategic, call it speed bumping of your space and making sure that there's a lot of structure assets to actually go through, and also leave you somewhere to purge and all that stuff, that's not going to go away at all. The cost is simply not enough. It might reduce the speed of smaller entities spreading out and building their infrastructure, but again, not in a way that really matters because it doesn't bring any strain to producing these things. It's just a simple is cost, and importing that from HiSec is easy peasy. And if you go and look at things like the Y-2ANO numbers in ratting, is cost doesn't really matter.
Yeah. So said Redline put the core isn't that for a couple of months. That is true. It isn't for a couple of months. We may even see Dell fall in that time. We may not. It's hard to say what goes on at the moment with this war. Um, but I believe someone did the calculations, and for Delve in just Keepstars alone, it's close to 2 trillion ISK. So these the cores will have an impact, but I don't think it will um, prevent the large blocks more. I personally feel like it's going to hinder the small blocks more than the large, but
To
Oh
bring
yeah,
in some
massively.
check on the bumped Titans. Seem
yeah,
to be drifting.
I just see that avatar just there.
Lag that went under.
Um,
They're not in too much danger because they're really just jumping out. But if everybody leaves them behind, that might be a problem. I think the rag jumped out, but it flew
yeah,
south for a while.
yeah. There's the Ragnarok's disappeared. It's just this one avatar that's just coming to a stop, but he's just gonna sit there. Someone inadvertently did some damage to the Fortizar, so it just repaired.
Again, the reason that we say that something like 1.8 trillion or a total of 3 trillion is not really that meaningful or relevant is again because if you look at the current ratting numbers in some of the regions that are currently completely free to do whatever they want, we're in the 7 trillion range, right, per month. So this is going to be easy peasy to cover those costs. Of course, someone like the Imperium might not be able to do it so easily because they can't really work that much in their space as they usually would. But of course, they could always just increase their taxations and then just get it from the members. And within 3 months, that should actually be possible to pay. So I don't think it's a relevant number at all.
The interesting thing is these cores give more means to assault than defense as well because they drop when the structure is destroyed. So imagine for Fountain there was 6 Keepstars. That's 180 billion that would have been scooped by the attacking forces, of which has a NPC value of 180 billion, which in itself is another Keepstar. So it does also want more to burning of structures and destroying a space because with Athanor cores being, I believe, at 600 mil, and the amount of Athanors that are in space just on moon mining, it soon tallies up quite a lot. So I think once they are implemented, we may start seeing more people wanting to evict and change over the regions of space, just because the cause will give that incentive of okay, we
But
may
it's
lose
just
30
not enough,
billion.
Sully. It's not enough. If you just consider the ones that we've covered, right? Those fight would just have another 30 billion on the field that you can lose, right? That's really it. But as you know, there's already about 20 to 30 billion on the field after one of the defenses that you covered, right? The 100 versus 100 billion on both sides. That left about 20 to maybe 30 billion in loot alone. If there was then 30 more, it's not really something that matters. It's not the incentive driver. You double the loot, so what?
I think it will want more than the current attacking driver.
Yeah, but not for null entities. For null entities, it's just a little added bonus.
Yeah, but I mean more. So Providence, for example, we've seen Providence go through a large change recently. Imagine that large change also then comes out with every structure destroyed. Say there's, I believe, all of Providence is aligned with each other at the moment. But if there was a division and you see two smaller entities going at it, that we previously saw years ago in areas of space where before big null entities existed, there could be that divider. There could be groups that live in NPC space that are trying to pick on the null entities in 0-0 surrounding space for those cores, because killing a national house previously yielded 300 million in salvage, whereas now it will also yield a quantum core. Same with Y-2ANO, previously yielded 150 million in salvage. That now can yield a billion.
Oh yeah, when you're talking about numbers where I would say something less than 500 dudes engaged, sure, then it's meaningful. But when it's on bigger scales, when you start dividing it up in lost man hours and actual losses on the field and the number of people that are engaged, none of these things actually divvies up to anything meaningful.
So we're just seeing here the last three titans that remain. Um, Primarily these will be opening bridges to get over there. Oops, sorry, four titans. I missed the obus that was there. Just primarily to get the ships out. They may need to cap up or wait for red timers so they can safely jump out. But we can see over here, this is where the Keepstar once was. Yeah, so Antaki says there's a bonus for the person who does the bash-in, and it's nice for people to actually grind them, get stuff. The good thing with them is, especially in high sec, where war decks have previously been unprofitable because you kill a Raito, it costs you 100 million in war, you get less than 100 million salvage. It doesn't make sense. Whereas now, war deckers in high sec will declare war for those quantum cores, so it makes high sec living in citadels no longer safe as ever. People will have to group together to defend stuff.
And that's also why it's a bit oppressive, because everyone with a mom and pop shop and someone that just wants to get started with their 25 dudes to try and own a structure, they might actually not be able to do so effectively anymore unless they reach a point where they can make enough income to actually pay for protection. It has so much downside that the upside, even if it stops the horrible barbed wire aggressive structure spam, I don't think it's worth it. I think it's a mistake. There is a validity to doing something like cause and adding this, but I don't think this is the way.
The time will tell if CCP do any changes on the iterations to it, but we can now see. I'll just paste it into chat. The Keepstart is indeed up on Zkill, and it was valued on Zkill at 232 billion. There was 1,915 pilots involved. Kiro says, what happened to CCP changing the rules whilst the war is ongoing? So, CCP's statement, correct me if I'm wrong, Caleb, or Matt, or as you may know more, was that the changes they had planned, they had spoke with the CSM and made sure that it was known that these changes were planned before the war announcement, not as a reaction of. Because that was CCP did have a concern, obviously, with most notably with the core, for example, making it so that an entity requires to core all their structures is a very difficult thing. So obviously there is a big time frame for that now.
Yeah, and I'm almost inclined to think that the final dates have actually been moved a little bit. I think the January 12th thing, before it actually gets fully implemented, is actually later than they had planned. So I think they actually pushed that. Um, but you can't stop something that's already been planned and in development just because suddenly the Eve player base decides to have a great war. And this does not have enough of a war impact that it completely shifts something in one group's favor. I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a little bit disadvantage to the goons, but not in a way that makes a massive difference.
No, and I believe both entities have members on the CSM who pretty much were in agreement of if it's a game-changing feature that you want to bring out, then bring it out regardless of the impact of the war. Because that is the whole purpose of the CSM. CSM isn't there to dictate over whether something's in favour of one side or the other. It's there to give CCP a played opinion of the groups they represent, of the general player base as well, to make sure that everything is in alignment. But as we're seeing now, we're below 100 in local. The Keepstar is well and truly destroyed. There is just the wrecks and pods that remain. So, are you around, Metal, to throw it over for a raid?
Yeah, got it.
Cool. So, I'll let Metal decide who we go and raid. So we're raiding CCP. So, thanks all for coming, and I'll see you on the next structure.